In the aftermath of the fertilizer fire and explosion in West, a document called a Tier 2 report became more prominent. It is set up as a tool for first responders, county officials, and you at home to have more information on where hazardous materials are stored. It's information we got from the state just last year, and as our Cody Lillick found out, it is information now considered confidential. Tonight, KLTV7 investigates.
That was designed to be easy for the public to get a hold of. In fact, the EPA calls it their Community Right to Know Act. Information called a Tier 2 report that could let you know if hazardous materials are being kept close to your home. And it's hundreds of pages we were able to get just last year in the aftermath of the West explosion. But when the facility in Athens caught fire, and we requested the report for that facility, the state group that holds that information, the Department of State Health Services, says it is now confidential. Today, in a 7-page letter to the State Attorney General's office, the department says with the information contained in the Tier 2 reports, a person can use the information alone or in combination to aid in making an explosive weapon. A section of the Texas Homeland Security Act says information is confidential if it assists in the construction or assembly of an explosive weapon. Something the Athens fire chief, a first responder to last month's fire, says is possible, but he also says the public deserves at least some of the information.
Obviously, the community has the right to know what's in your community, especially if you're living nearby.
We also requested a copy of the State Fire Marshal's Office inspection of this facility here in Athens. We were initially told we couldn't get a copy of it. They said it was part of their open investigation into what happened here in Athens. But since then, through another records request through another agency, we were able to get a copy of that report showing just what inspectors saw. A structure that housed 35 tons of ammonium nitrate. At the time, the facility did not have a Tier 2 report on file, but since filed one for that year and one for this year. Also noted were signs the building was in decay, signs the fire chief says were acted upon.
He did facial repairs. There was some holes in the building that on the haydock blocks and some back parts of the building.
And fertilizer was reportedly separated by wooden bins, the exact opposite of what is considered a best practice by the National Fire Protection Association.
What they're saying is the State Fire Marshal and NFPA is the best practices would be not to have wooden bin dividers, but there's no law that says you got to have that.
Chief McQuarrie says right now the state is in a holding pattern waiting on the legislature to act after these two fires, just like the holding pattern that exists in the state releasing information that was once considered the community's right to know.
If you don't allow the public to know exactly what's in there and then something happens, you know, you could be liable somewhat, and then you've got people that say you got a terrorist that came in there and grabbed the material, made a bomb out of it. It's a catch-22.
A catch-22 putting communities at odds with the act put in place to protect them. Cody Lillick, KLTV7 News.
The Attorney General's office has 45 days to rule on our requested information. As for that investigation into the Athens fertilizer fire, a more detailed report from the State Fire Marshal's office is set to be released next week.